Have you ever thought about, you know how a language is born? It's not something we see every day, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
But in this tiny village, al-Said, in Israel's Negev desert, we can actually see a whole new language developing right now.
It's amazing.
Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language. And it's only like 80 years old.
Wow.
It's practically a baby in the world of languages.
Yeah.
And it's giving us like a front row seat to see how people create new ways to communicate completely from scratch.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
It's amazing.
What makes al-Said so unique is this really unusual concentration of deafness. 150 deaf people out of only 4,000 residents.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And this is all because of a single family with 4 deaf children about 80 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And then as their relative got married, deafness became more and more common, and that's what created this need for a new way to talk to each other.
So from just one family, a brand new language came about.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
It is.
It makes you wonder how it even got started. Like, did they just, make up signs randomly, or is there some kind of system to it?
That's where things get really interesting. You see all languages, even the sign languages, have a structure underneath. It's like having these little building blocks, kind of like the sounds we use in spoken language. And these building blocks, they don't really mean anything on their own. But when you put them together in specific ways, they become meaningful words.
Okay, I think you get that. So it's like the sounds, D-O-G,
Yeah.
they don't mean anything separately, but if you put them together, boom, you got dog.
Right, exactly.
But how does that work with signs? I mean, are there like sounds in sign language too?
You got it. Sign languages, they have their own special set of building blocks. But instead of sounds, they use things like handshakes and movements and where you put your hands in space. These elements, they all come together to create a whole vocabulary, just like in spoken languages.
So even though it looks like signs are just, showing things directly, there's this hidden structure underneath, making them more than just simple gestures. That's so cool. So what was it like when linguists first saw this language in action? I mean, could they even understand what was happening?
Well, one of the first linguists to actually study al-Said Bedouin Sign Language, Wendy Sandler, she described it as fluent but unintelligible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the villagers could understand each other perfectly, but for anyone outside, it was a complete mystery.
Fluent but unintelligible.
Yes.
So they were definitely communicating, but the language itself was still like in its early stages of development. It's kind of like listening to someone speak a language you've never heard before.
Exactly.
You can tell they're making sense, but you have no clue what they're actually saying.
A perfect analogy. And one thing that made researchers realize just how young this language was that there wasn't always consistency in the signs. For instance, different families would actually use different signs for the same word, like dog or egg.
Hold on. Different signs for the same word.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could cause some serious confusion.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But remember, this is a brand new language. It's still figuring out its own rules. And this kind of variation, it's actually pretty normal in the early stages of how a language develops.
Okay, so it's like the language was still in beta testing. It makes me curious how those differences actually worked in real life. Like, what about the sign for dog? Was that one at least consistent?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. See, in more established sign languages, where you place your hands is really important for the meaning. So, like, moving your hand up or down can totally change what a sign means. But in al-Said Bedouin Sign Language, they weren't really using hand height yet. It's like they hadn't quite figured out how to use that part of the language's toolbox.
So they had all these different ingredients for a complex language, but they were still playing around with how to combine them in the most effective way.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
But what happened next? Did the language just stay in this unintelligible phase?
Not at all. And that's what we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll look at how the younger generations started to shape this language and make it even more nuanced and complex.
Oh, that sounds like things are about to get even more interesting. Don't go anywhere. Folks, we'll be right back with more on the evolution of al-Said Bedouin Sign Language. So before the break, we were talking about how al-Said Bedouin Sign Language was still in its early stages, kind of like a rough draft. But the really cool part is how the younger generation came in and started making these significant changes, like they were editing that draft and making it way better. What kind of changes were they making?
It's amazing, isn't it? Younger generations always seem to reshape language, and in al-Said, their innovations are actually pushing the language towards becoming more complex and fluid, which is something we see happen naturally as languages develop over time.
So they're adding more to the language. Can you give me like a specific example of what you mean by innovations?
Absolutely. Remember we were talking about the older generation using a two-part sign for egg that started with a gesture like a chicken pecking?
Yeah?
Well, some of the younger signers, they started simplifying this using three pecking fingers instead of just one.
Huh.
It's a small change, but a really important one when it comes to efficiency.
So they're making it less about literally showing a chicken pecking and more about having a smoother movement.
Yeah.
It's like they're streamlining the language, making it easier and faster to use. But doesn't simplifying a sign like that also risk losing some of its meaning?
That's a great question. And it really gets to the heart of how sign languages balance clarity and efficiency. While the newer sign for egg might be less visual, it's way more fluid and faster to do. It's a trade-off we see in established sign languages like ASL or Israeli Sign Language, where signs often become more abstract over time.
I see. It's kind of like when we use abbreviations or emojis in text.
Yeah, exactly.
We're giving up some visual details, but for the sake of speed and ease.
Yeah.
What other changes were these younger signers making?
They were also starting to incorporate more movement into their signs, even when the movement itself didn't directly relate to the meaning of the word. This might seem a bit extra at first glance, but these added movements, they actually make the language flow better, and they help distinguish between signs that might look similar.
Wait, so you mean they're adding movements that don't actually mean anything? Why would they do that?
It's all about how we see things. These movements that seem unnecessary, they actually play a really big role in how we understand sign language. They add a rhythm and flow to the language, making it easier to understand visually. It's kind of like intonation and pauses in spoken languages. They don't change what the words literally mean, but they give us extra layers of nuance and expression.
Wow, that's really interesting. So these younger signers aren't just simplifying and streamlining the language, but they're also making it more expressive and visually dynamic. But this was all happening within the village, right? What happens when things from outside the village start to have an effect? Did al-Said Bedouin Sign Language stay completely isolated from the outside world?
That's where things get really interesting, and it's something we'll explore in the last part of our deep dive. As al-Said became more connected to the world outside, it naturally came into contact with other languages and cultures, especially Israeli Sign Language.
So we have another language entering the picture. What happened when these two languages met? Did they clash? Did one take over the other? I'm dying to know.
It's not so much a battle as a really interesting interaction between languages. Just think about it. Languages are always changing and adapting. And when they come into contact, they often borrow from each other, creating this mix of influences.
So instead of one winning out, they might actually make each other richer.
Exactly.
I'm thinking about the kids who are learning Israeli Sign Language at school. Do they go home and start mixing the two languages?
You got it. It's a natural thing called code switching. People who know more than one language often switch between them, sometimes even in the middle of a sentence. And that's what we're seeing in al-Said as younger generations weave bits of both languages into how they talk.
I love that. It's like they're creating a whole new dialect, a special blend of the old and the new. But what does this mean for the future of al-Said Bedouin Sign Language? Will it be able to keep its own special features, or will it just get absorbed into Israeli Sign Language?
That's the million-dollar question. And to be honest, we don't know for sure. There are just so many factors involved. Will the younger generation keep using the older signs, or will they switch to the more common Israeli signs? Will the community actively try to preserve their unique language? Or will globalization slowly cause the two to merge together?
It's like watching someone walk a tightrope, isn't it? You're hoping that this new language will find its balance and hold on to its own identity. It almost feels like an endangered species struggling to survive in a world that's changing all the time.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it really highlights how important it is to understand language diversity and the effect that globalization has on these smaller, less common languages. And in the case of al-Said, it's not just about the schools. There are other ways that Israeli Sign Language is coming into the village.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what? Besides the schools, how else is it getting in?
Well, think about it. Some of the deaf people in al-Said, they work outside the village and interact with people using Israeli Sign Language. And there are also cases where deaf women from al-Said marry men from other parts of Israel. These interactions naturally bring new language influences into their families and the community.
So it's this really intricate web of connections and influences, each one playing its part in shaping the future of this language. It makes you realize that language is so much more than just words and grammar. It's a reflection of culture, history, and human connection.
Absolutely. And what's so special about al-Said Bedouin Sign Language is that it gives us a window into how languages are born, how they change, and how they adapt to the world around them.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've gone from the very first signs of this new language to the complex interplay of things from both inside and outside the village that are shaping how it develops. It's a story that's still being written, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
I agree. And to everyone listening, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language reminds us that language is a living, breathing thing. It's always changing and evolving, and it really shows us the incredible ability we humans have to create, adapt, and connect with each other through communication.
What an amazing journey. From a single family to a whole new language, now facing the challenges of globalization. The story of Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language is a testament to the resilience and creativity of how humans communicate. Who knows what other linguistic wonders are out there just waiting to be discovered? Keep your ears open and your minds curious, because the world of language is full of surprises. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language. All right, so we're back, and I'm really curious to hear what happened when these two languages, Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language and Israeli Sign Language, actually met. Was it like a fight for dominance, or did they figure out a way to, live together?
It's more like a fascinating kind of dance between languages. If you think about it, languages are always changing, always adapting. And when they bump into each other, they often borrow from each other, creating this blend of influences.
So instead of one taking over, they might actually enrich each other.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the kids who learn Israeli Sign Language at school. Do they then go home and start mixing the two?
Exactly. It's totally natural. It's called code switching. People who know more than one language, they switch back and forth all the time, sometimes even in the same sentence. And that's what we're seeing in Al-Said. The younger generations are weaving parts of both languages into how they communicate.
That's so cool. It's like they're creating their own dialect, this unique mix of old and new. But what does all this mean for the future of Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language? Will it be able to hang on to its own special qualities, or will it just eventually be absorbed into Israeli Sign Language?
That's the big question, and to be honest, we don't have a clear answer. There are just so many things at play. Will the younger generation keep using the older signs, or will they move towards the Israeli signs that everyone else uses? Will the community actually try to protect their unique language, or will all these global influences lead to them merging together?
It kind of feels like we're watching a tightrope walk, doesn't it? You're rooting for this new language to find its footing and keep its own identity. It's almost like an endangered species trying to survive in a world that's constantly changing.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It really highlights how important it is to understand that languages are diverse and the huge impact globalization has on these smaller, less common languages. And when it comes to Al-Said, it's not just about the schools either. There are other ways that Israeli Sign Language is finding its way into the village.
Oh, really? Like what? Besides the schools, how else is it getting in?
Well, just think about it. Some of the deaf residents in Al-Said, they work outside the village, so they interact with people using Israeli Sign Language. And there are also cases where deaf women from Al-Said marry men from other parts of Israel. These kinds of interactions naturally bring new language influences into their families and the community.
So is this whole intricate web of connections and influences all shaping the future of this really unique language? It makes you realize that language is so much more than just words and grammar. It's a reflection of culture and history and human connection.
Exactly. And what's so amazing about Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language is that it gives us a glimpse into the core of how languages are born, how they change, and how they adapt to the world around them.
This deep dive has been amazing. We've gone from the very first signs of this new language emerging to the complex interaction of things both inside and outside the village that are shaping how it develops. It's a story that's still being written, and I'm so excited to see what happens next.
I agree. And for everyone listening, I want to leave you with this thought. Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language reminds us that language is alive, it's always changing and evolving. And it really shows us how incredible humans are, that we can create, adapt, and connect with each other through communication.
This has been an incredible journey. From one family to a whole new language, now facing the challenges of globalization. The story of Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language is a true testament to the strength and creativity of human communication. Who knows what other amazing languages are out there just waiting to be discovered? Keep your ears open and stay curious, because the world of language is full of surprises.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Al-Said Bedouin Sign Language.